Good morning, y'all. This is Fix It with Fran, where I talk about all things faith, family, food, and fun. And this is a little segment of the YouTube channel, and eventually I need to start posting these back to my blog, that I am going to be calling What's Growing Wednesdays, or What's Growing On, or something. I'm going to see how I feel about it and where I land. But either the way, I wanted to start getting some of these recorded and out to y'all. And I mentioned before in a couple of my videos two things. I mentioned that I had some African violets that I have had since 2018, and I'm showing you those two now. This one right here, which is a little sad, and I'm learning that it is possible to take one that has an extended stem and to kind of reroot it and reposition it down into the soil so that it's not curved. And what I mean by that is if I can pick this up without creating a gigantic mess, you'll see here that this one has like a crook neck of sorts, and it's kind of all over the place, but I've been able to, and it also looks like it's putting out some little suckers here in the tip. But I'm sitting on the floor in our kind of foyer area because I wanted to sit down somewhere where I could show you all of these. I have my plants, like I said, I'm putting them all over the house because this house has such great natural light, and I kind of walked around and gathered some that were in. This one was in my office. This one, or these two, were in our master bedroom. This one was in the kitchen next to the Arrow garden that you've already seen. This one was also in the kitchen next to the Arrow garden. These two were over by the wet bar, and this one was in my home office that I've been working next to. So this one is kind of like my pride and joy. And I say that because it was, of these two, when I got them from Lowe's, these were both Optimara African violets that came from Lowe's on the clearance rack. Let's see if I can bring this tag into focus for you. Let's see if I can put this tripod down and bring it into focus for you. Let's see. Oh, or I can just pick it up and move it that way. How about that? I'm trying, but you can kind of see there. I feel like it's not coming into great focus. That it's the Optimara variety. It is Lowe's, a Lowe's little plant tag here, and that's where I got it from. So in general, I've had this one since 2018, and this one as well. And they've been growing, but what I have learned in the research that I've been doing, and I told y'all I will do my research, I will find out what's going on, is that I was not fertilizing them enough. I don't know why I was inclined to think that. Okay, let's see if this goes better. Whoopsie. So here we go with the tag. Bring that into focus for you. So yeah, the African violet tag. See that it's there from Lowe's. There's a number there that you can text for more information if you'd like that information. As always, just to let you know, this video is not sponsored by Lowe's. I'm not endorsed by Lowe's. This is just where I got my African violet on the clearance rack for $1. So letting you know that. But I was doing the research, talking with some of my friends that I've connected with in person and online about African violets, and I was learning that I was not fertilizing them enough. So I was thinking that I only needed to do like once a month, and they said, no, you kind of want to do a constant low feed fertilizing, liquid fertilizer, and you want to give it to them every time you water. And with African violets, like I showed y'all, I use these containers that actually allow them to wick up the water themselves with these strings. Now, as I said, I'm not necessarily crazy about these pots because they don't hold in the soil well, and these little cracks on the side are too big. And in some places they aren't completely open, but you can see right there to the right where it's kind of letting the soil come through. So I'm not crazy about them, but I do like the overall technology and the idea where they're able to just take up the water as they need it. But I wanted to show you too. So this one actually was moved and I put it in Monica's room. And if you see there, this little piece here and that there, and I'll put it up again in the light so you can see it better, are buds. So I changed my little practice and I started doing a low dose fertilizer at every time I watered just to feed them. and they are putting out flowers for me. And this is actually the first time that this particular plant has flowered for me ever. Now this one, that's more of my pride and joy because it's so pretty. And the leaves are doing so much better since I moved it. At first I had it closer to one of the Arrow Gardens, and I posted in a group on Facebook that I was kind of nervous because it looked like it was really, really like light green, and I felt like it might be getting too much light. So they suggested that I move it to a north-facing window because you want bright indirect light for these. And I did that, and it is also putting out new flowers. So let's see if I can get this at an angle where you can see it better. Yeah, tons of them. So they're all down in there. And I had these and I hadn't cleaned them up because I also wanted to show you some of the little tools that I use to help take care of these plants. So, and this is my big old hand that I've showed y'all before with my pineapple plants. And that's how big the spread is for this African violet. I should have grabbed a ruler or something, but I didn't think about it. So I'm excited to now know that not only have I adjusted my little feeding, fertilizing pattern with these to the point where they're both happy enough to bloom, they're going to be blooming at the same time. This one I know in the past it bloomed for me either right after or right before Monica was born. It was right after because it was when I had gone back to work, I believe. Oh, nope, it was before I left for maternity leave. So right before, maybe in like August of 2019, this bloomed for me. This one, I also kind of wonder if it's stretching too much or trying to reach for the light because it's not giving me like this one is doing where there's a tight pattern to the leaves. So I may still need to find another spot for this one because it's really, although, sorry, I'm thinking about this and just giving y'all my true assessment as I'm looking at it. I had it in one spot and now where it is, it seems like it's giving me a tighter leaf pattern. So you don't want to move them and adjust them too much. You want to give it time to kind of acclimate to where it's located. So I want to give it a little more time to see if the new spot is one that's going to be good for it. Seems good at least to the point where it's putting out flowers, but let's see what it does. But all of this going on in the center does make me feel like it's putting out, oh, sorry, that's my Fitbit, not the plant. It makes me feel like it's putting out some suckers and we're going to have to eventually prune those away. Oh, yeah. This plant has been a bit of a problem child, but we're going to speak life into my little plant and not say negative things. Sorry, baby. But yeah, look at that. Those little leaves on the side, I don't think we want to see that. I don't think that's a good thing. Anywho, we're not going to give up on it just yet. Gonna keep working on it, figure out a way to make it a happy plant baby. These other ones I wanted to show you, they came from a local nursery here in the greater New Orleans area called Perinos. What's interesting about them is that I looked around and saw different arrangements. I actually saw these outside in a cluster like this where it's 3 in 1. And when I saw it, I liked the color. So when I shared this in a Facebook group, I mentioned that they weren't ID'd, so I wasn't sure what they were. Like these at least have a tag. Both of these had the tag initially that said that they were Optimara brand African violets. And they didn't have a name ID per se, but they did at least say that, and they were in the pots that had the Optimara stickers and all that. So I knew they were Optimara flowers. These, I had no earthly idea. And a lot of times they will say when you read and learn more about African violets that if they are not tagged by the grower or tagged by the nursery or tagged by the individual that propagated them, you have no way of truly knowing. And that's the truth. So with these, someone looked at the fluorescence and some of the details in this particular plant, and they said that's the Optimara something, and they gave me the image. And it's like, well, I mean, that's nice to know, but I mean, I truly can't say that. Like, I wouldn't be able to propagate this and tell anybody else that it was that because I don't have a true ID. I don't have the true, you know, like tag and paperwork kind of given to me from the grower. So I don't have the real right to say that and try to, you know, license it or anything like that because I don't have it. But that being said, I still liked how these looked, and the nursery had some that were individual, and I looked at it and I said, I'm going to take these that were, again, all of these were in a cluster just like this arrangement, and I'm going to split these up because I knew I had enough pots to do it, because I'd gotten a set of like 10 or 15 of these pots to review. I still have a couple of these white pots that I haven't used. So I have this one, and this one that I use to repot these. This is one of the older, like self-watering pots that I have. It doesn't have a wick in it, so I actually had this plant in a pot like this before. And I try to be careful moving this one because it's so, just the stem of it is so off-centered. But this one, again, was in a pot like this, and I repotted it into this bigger pot. Because, again, if you can imagine with this spread of leaves, how this was towering over that little teeny tiny pot. So it was definitely time for it to be upsized. And that was another recommendation that I got from the groups on Facebook, was to upsize this, add some more potting soil, and to fertilize. And even in doing that, we got all these new blooms coming. So definitely were good tips that I received, and I'm glad that I followed them, even though I was kind of hesitant to repot them, because another thing that I had learned in my research was that African violets can be a little temperamental about getting repotted and having their roots disturbed. So I really just added more soil, kind of made a little bowl around it, and then set the violet in there and tried not to interrupt or break up the root ball at all. So when I looked at this back on these, I separated these, kind of said a prayer, because again, I was nervous about breaking up the roots because I knew that African violets don't like that. But so far, these all look really happy. They've continued to open their buds for me. They've put out new little buds. You can see there. This one's still blooming. I think I see some new leaves that are coming up in the middle. So that's what's growing with these. That's what's growing on with that one. And this one too, putting out new blooms. Now I think this on the leaf, this was like this when I got it from the nursery, and it's like what happens when water gets on the leaf and damages it. Because I was going to say, one of the biggest things that I do when I'm experimenting with new plants and learning about them is to read about them, to do my research. And one of the other powerful things for me is to not only do the reading, but then apply the knowledge and try to actually retain it through that practical application. So one factoid that I kind of learned was that African violets are like succulents, and you don't want to overwater them. You don't want to get a lot of water on the leaves, and you don't want to touch the leaves too much. So I wanted to show y'all, because you'll see that there's kind of dirt in a couple different places. There's some dust on the leaves. And what I tried to do was to minimize how much I came into contact with these right away when I was repotting them, because I didn't want them to go through any more shock other than what I was already doing, putting them in new pots and setting up the water wicks. So I waited to even dust off a lot of the dirt that you see kind of on the edges of the pots. But this is a little tool that I got from Amazon. I think it was something that I received to review maybe back in like 2019, 2020. No, it's probably 2019. 2020, I didn't do too many product reviews since Monica, so maybe 2018. And I liked it because what this does is to just gently blow air. It's like a little squeegee thing. And you can come in here and dust the leaves without actually having to touch the leaves. And if you are interested in African violets, what you will learn is that African violets are, in addition to being like succulents, they have kind of hairy leaves. So it's hard to just come up to these and say, oh, I'm just going to take my hand and flick the dirt off. That's not going to work. So what is really good to do is have something like this where you can just dust the dirt off without actually touching the leaf. Because again, since it's like a succulent, you don't want to come into contact with this too much, but you want to have a way that you can remove the dirt, more for aesthetics than anything else. The dirt's not necessarily going to hurt the leaves, but if you're able to just kind of dust that off and clean it up, it looks nicer, which, you know, it's part of the appeal of a plant to have something that's nice and pleasing to the eye, and it gets all that moved away. And it's just a gentle little brushing. Let's see how that moved all the dirt that I had going on some of these leaves. And it may take more than one time, but even going along the side of this pot, getting the dirt off the sides, just a nice, easy way to clean that up. So I can do the same thing over here. Just come in, squeeze a couple times, get that off. Cleaned up my pot, cleaned up my plant. I'm gonna have to clean up the floor, but that's the usual when I'm doing this kind of potting stuff. And what I noticed is that this is a different pot. This is a Santino, and I'll put the links below this. A Santino pot that's supposed to be one where you water it from the top or still around the edge of your pot, and it collects water at the bottom, and it gives you this window to see where the water level is and when you need to refill it. What you'll notice too with African violets is that when they're very happy and they're getting enough water, your blooms will last and last and last. And sometimes it'll seem like they're just like never ending, like on that kind of Tuck Everlasting bloom. This flower has not done that. And I put it in this pot because I got this pot. It was like an Amazon deal of the day, like lightning deal. And I've liked it before for like my pothos kind of houseplants. And I looked at it and I said, well, maybe this could work for African violet. Let's try it out. I don't like it because as you'll notice, like these purple ones here are fading. And it's really just these, but also too, it could be, now that's just one theory, is that the pot may not be making it happy, but it could also be that this is still the arrangement where there's 3 in the pot. So they may not like that. You know, when you have 3 different plants of any type in a pot, they're going to compete for water, they're going to compete for nutrients. You're more likely to have one plant that performs poorly compared to others because unless you do the perfect ratio of everything, the perfect ratio of sunlight, the perfect ratio of water, have it in a place that has enough air circulation for all 3, it's likely that one plant is going to suffer if you have an arrangement that has more than one, especially if it's not an arrangement where they can benefit off of one another. African violets can tend to be happy in grouped arrangements, but sometimes that happiness is short-lived. So this could be a case where this plant is just letting me know, get me out of here. Like I said in some of my other videos, follow the cues of your plant. This cue to me is telling me I need to vacate the premises. Like I don't want to be in this pot anymore. And so what I will very likely do is eventually just sit down, have a moment where I split these up and put them into 3 separate pots because I want them to have the space to spread out. So again, it's not just that, you know, they're in the pot and it may not be what I care for. Them being in a pot like this together means what's going to happen when they get happy enough in my care, because I'm just going to speak that into existence, that they're this big and they want to spread. I like to see this plate spread for my violets. So what's going to happen when all 3 of these in this pot want to spread like that? We're going to have a problem. So for me, in the long term, with not wanting to cause too much interruption to my plants, with wanting to be able to be as gentle as possible with repotting them, it's going to make more sense to repot them sooner rather than later so that they have space to grow and thrive and flourish like I want them to do. So before this video gets any longer, I just want to show y'all that there's the African violets and that's what's growing on with them. And last but not least, I have a few, well, there's one more African violet. So on the issue of space, this is African violet that I got this past weekend from Home Depot. And I looked at it and they were all still in plastic and the plastic was going all the way up the pot. So this was kind of the best of the bunch that I saw. And I thought, well, you know, they don't look like they've been that cared for. They were kind of just tucked over in the side. And I was looking at them last night. And in true country girl fashion, I'm going to give y'all a good old, well, I'll be. There's 2 plants in this pot, y'all. Let's see. Let me pause this so I can. All right, pause this so I could, oh no, I got what on my other one. I paused this so I could pick it up and try to show y'all. Let me see if I can get a good angle and get it in focus on the camera. So if you look down here, it's not in the light. If you, I'm not getting it. I'll just take my word for it if I can't get it in the frame. If you look, oh no, I just broke a leaf. Oh, golly gee. I have clearly watched too many of Monica's nursery rhyme videos. But down here in the center of this pot, this is just a horribly bad angle. There's definitely 2 little plants. And I noticed it last night because this was over by the Arrow garden and the light was shining in. But you can almost see it here because it's like a collection of two different crowns. Anytime you look at an African violet and you just see a bunch of leaves and there's not an organized center like this, it's very likely that you have more than one center or a sucker, or basically more than one area where there's leaves growing up. So if you look at this one, let's try to bring it back into focus. You see leaves that are kind of centered around here. And then you see some leaves that seem like they're kind of centered around here. And then you got this flower bloom that's so it could even be 3. Like, it's just something, it's a lot going on here. So this is when you know, like, you kind of have to go in and do so. So you can see right here by my pointer finger, there's a center that's there. Oh yeah, there's more than one. Oh goodness. There's a nursery rhyme that Monica watches that goes, goodness gracious, oh golly gee. And I just feel myself about to say that. So then there's another one. So you see that little baby leaf right there, if I can bring it into focus. Oh, thank you, Lord. So that's a whole nother center. In addition to this little center right here. Oh Lord, this is like advanced African violet. I don't know if I'm here yet. I don't know if I'm ready to do this kind of surgery. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, that's at least 2. And then there's this center here. Hold on. I may be looking at the same spots. 1. Yeah, there's this one, which we already looked at. I'm looking at it from the other side. And then there's this one. So there's this one on this side where my thumb is. And there's this one on this side where my pointer finger is. My. My. Wait. And then there's this one right here. Yeah, there's 3. Good googly moogly. Yep. So if we look at it from up top, there's this one right here. There's this one right here. And then there's this one right here. That's 3 different ones. Good grief. I mean, not that that's a bad thing. Yeah, one there, one here. Okay. Trying to position my hand so I can show you in one frame. So there's one here by my pointer finger. There's one here by my thumb. And then there's one here by my other thumb. And potentially a 4th. This is wild. Yep. 1. I'll have to come back and do another video of this one because at this point, we're going to have to do a surgery. Sorry for the extreme close-up. I'm not even going to bother with trying to do that now. 1, I got somewhere else to go and other things to do today. 2, for my preference and at least my level of expertise with this right now, I would almost be inclined to at least let it grow up for a little bit so that I could better identify these different, I don't know if they're called crowns or what. I'm going to call them crowns for now, but the different individual violets so that I could separate them better, because if they don't have like a true base for me to pull apart, when I go to pull them apart, I may lose that portion of the plant, and I don't want to do that. And at some point they may still grow and do well and, you know, kind of be like this type of arrangement, but where it created it itself. Oh, this is new to me. And this may explain why the plant isn't necessarily looking so great as far as these blooms. I attributed this to just being that it's a new plant because these blooms have opened up for me. When I got it from Home Depot, all of these were kind of still closed and I felt like they had been sitting for a while and probably hadn't been watered that often and definitely hadn't been fertilized. So I got home, gave them some of the fertilizer that I use that I don't have nearby, so I'll share it with you in a different video, and just kept it pushing that way. So to wrap this up, I wanted to show you one last thing is that I also use these pots for some of my other plants. And I've loved that the other thing I have growing in the living room in these pots are my silvery and little, what is it? Scandapcius. I might have butchered that, but if you know what it is, you know what I mean. Growing, and I put this in a self-watering pot just as an experiment because I can tend to be generous with my watering as a plant mama. So it's really enjoyed that, and I put it in a more lower light situation in a farther corner of our living room, and it's done really well. It seems to be filling out more. This one. I guess I'm going to end up always showing you like one of my problem child plants in these videos. This Arrowhead plant. I thought we weren't going to make it, y'all. I thought it was going to be a goner. I thought, if you can see down here where I kind of clipped out a whole bunch of pieces when it just kept, yeah, it was bad. But I told myself, because this is another one of those self-wicking pots that came from, what was it? Either Home Depot or Lowe's. I took this and instead of using the strings that came with this pot, I just slipped the nursery pot inside of here and let it water wick itself. And it's been so happy. And this is all brand new growth because this plant, when I set it in here, had like new shoots coming up, but literally no greenery at all. And so I'm so happy that it rebounded because I thought it was a goner. But the cat came back. Hey, can you tell I'm watching too many kid videos? But all that being said, that is what we got growing on here at the house right now as far as my African violet collections. These are all of my standard African violets. So I wanted to show y'all that I'm literally sitting down here on the floor in my socks, about to get up and get ready, head out and run some errands for the day. So I'll give y'all an update whenever I repot these into probably these style of pots, and whenever this African violet grows up, shows me what it has really going on as far as how many plants are really truly in this pot, and when I decide to do surgery and separate them. So those will be some videos that we have coming up later on. And definitely whenever I get the blooms to emerge on these little babies, I'll have to let y'all know, post a picture or do something. So thank you for watching another one of these almost 30-minute videos. I love African violet. So if you've thought about growing them, been wondering how complicated it is, I promise you, if I can keep these two alive for 2 years, now going on 3 years with limited knowledge, and now my expanding knowledge has made me more confident to grow these standard African violets as well as some mini African violets, it's possible. These pots, I give a lot of credit to, because them just knowing that if I put water in the bottom, get some fertilizer, they kind of are self-contained entities and take care of themselves, y'all. So don't be afraid of the African violet, really, truly. And I'm trying to learn how to propagate them, because you can propagate them from just a leaf or leaf in the stem. So I'm trying to learn how to do that and get my confidence up with that. So as always, this is Fix It with Fran, where I talk about all things faith, family, food, and fun. And this is what we have growing on this Wednesday.